All right, let's get you hooked. It's another episode of The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. We appreciate you guys being with us today. As always, you can get this podcast where you get your podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and anywhere you see us on social media. Please go rate, review, ask us questions at The Stampede UT. It is Mack Brown and Vince Young alongside me. I'm Bob Ballou. Good to see you guys. All three of us were in Columbus this weekend, so we've got a lot of stories to tell. We've got some Ohio State fans we need to call out, according to Vince.
Yes.
And we're going to obviously talk about the loss. We'll get into Arch. We're going to look back on some things in the past. Texas quarterbacks, Arch's uncles, some of the things they've been through in college, give a little perspective on that front, and then we'll kind of look at the future and what's to come. But guys, let's talk about overall impressions. The trip to Columbus I thought was great for the most part, but right before we started, Vince told us maybe it wasn't quite as great as what we thought. In 2005, every Texas fan said Ohio State fans were the absolute worst. It was the worst trip they'd ever made. We actually had a really good weekend. We had a great time Friday afternoon, Saturday before the game. Things maybe took a little bit of a turn after the game, but guys, overall, what were your impressions of the weekend in Columbus?
Vince?
Well, for me, it was pretty good for, like you said, Friday. We had a great time doing the show with the rest of the guys. And then, after the loss, I think that they took it to the point of a guy walking into my face with throwing the horns down. And thank God that, I'm not the old VY.
Yeah, but I would have been standing there to grab your arm if you were the old VY. And we'd have a Texas Ranger there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sylvan Young and a couple of my friends that was with me, they kept me calm. So, I just don't like that type of stuff. Especially, I don't care if it is a game or whatever it may be. It's just a sign of respect. You don't go in people's faces, and do things like that. So thank God, I had guys around me, and, I'm more older and mature now, and I got a lot to lose if I would have slapped the mess out of that kid.
Yeah, you got to decide, is it worth jail time or not?
Exactly.
That's the thing. Bob, I had a great time.
Yeah.
It was, I flew up, and both Texas and Ohio State fans were really classy and great. It's a shame there's 106,000 people there, and one of them has to mess it up. But I thought, unlike in 2025, they showed great respect for us, especially at the tailgate. It was fun to see the great players from Ohio State interact with Vince. I got to see Urban Meyer, John Cooper, and Jim Tressel before the game. And here's the new lieutenant governor of Ohio that I'm visiting with on the field. And we had a player from North Carolina that had transferred to Ohio State, one that transferred to Texas. So it was fun to watch those guys. But it was interesting. I was standing and talking to some of our top boosters on the field before the game, and they said, "How did you do this? You just get so nervous." And I thought, I never stood out here. I was always in there thinking, what are we going to call? What's the first series going to be like? Do we onside kick? Do we kick it deep? Do we take the ball? Do we give it up? There's so many things on a head coach's mind. You really don't think about it, but standing out there watching them dot the I and listening to the band, and I will give Ohio State fans credit, Vince. They came, man. They were loud at noon. I didn't think it'd be, and it's tougher to play there at night, but I will give them credit. It was a tremendous atmosphere all day.
Boy, it really was. You mentioned the live stream Friday afternoon. We really appreciated the guys from The Script, the Ohio State podcast. They were all there. Cardale Jones, Beanie Wells, Dave Holmes, the host. I feel like I lost a bet to him. That's why I'm wearing this shirt today. I've got it's a little more pink than what it looks like, but it definitely looks like Ohio State colors. I've already been called out on that. I appreciate that. But those guys were fantastic. They were great hosts. We look forward to hosting a live stream in a similar fashion coming up this year. We'll have details of that coming soon. But all in all, I think to your guys' point, the atmosphere was incredible. It was everything that you could have asked for. The biggest thing that I took away was, and I kind of joked about this one, you dot the I, right? I mean, that's the whole thing at Ohio. They dot the I. Capitalize was the entire thing in this game for Texas. They did not capitalize on any of the opportunities that they had. And let's start there, because what were your guys' initial impressions of this game, a 14-7 loss. Vince, obviously Texas did not capitalize in any way on the majority of the opportunities that they had. What were your takeaways? What was your biggest takeaway?
I mean, we talked about it all week, the things that was gonna, come up in the game that it was a big situation that you gotta take advantage of, and we just did not capitalize on that, especially in the red zone. When you get in that red zone, you have to punch it in. We take care of that, take care of the penalties, it's 21-14, game over, you know? And that's how tough it is, and that's how tight it is in these type of games, how much you have to be so prepared and so well ready to go to play because one mistake will hurt your drive. And that's kind of what happened. And then a turnover as well. We got an interception. I've seen a lot of them, the receivers not finishing through their routes, to help arch out. You know, Even if the ball is wherever it may be, you finish, not get lazy at the top of the route. These type of things that I know that they're going to watch film about and going to correct them. I felt like the offensive line did a really good job for their first time in a hostile environment. I mean, I was standing right by them the whole time, and they was communicating, talking, and they was calm. They was motivating each other, like, "Hey, great job. We could do it. We could do better the next drive." Hearing that from a young offensive line and guys that never played together and that chemistry not like that, and coming to the sideline, you don't see guys throwing their helmet. You don't see guys going at it. You see guys really communicating with coach and trying to figure out what we can do better for the next drive. And that's very important when you got that up front with your offensive line guys. So I was impressed with that. And then, again, some things that we just definitely got to fix.
Well, you always hung out with offensive linemen. I mean, that was you.
That's
you,
my
you
guys.
knew,
I got to.
you knew
Smart
you took them to
quarterback.
dinner. You gave them gifts.
Hey.
You were going to take care of those big guys, and you knew they like to eat, and you knew
Exactly.
they like to be patted on the head. So that
Right.
was a big part of it. Bob, when you start looking at football games from a coaching standpoint, there's 7 to 10 plays and situations that make a difference in a win and loss. And that's
Yeah.
why people get frustrated when the head coach says, "Oh, we played well." Well, it's 7 plays. And we didn't make those 7 plays, but the guys played well. I thought in looking at it, it's 2 playoff teams, 2 of the best coaches in the country, 2 of the best atmospheres in the country. Football programs are really important at both places. And unlike 05, and I was talking to Coach Tressel about this before the game, when we beat them, they were out of the national championship game. Now you're not. We said Clemson last year, losing to Georgia, gets blown out, and they come back and they're in the playoffs playing Texas. So what you do from this when you go back and we said, were the penalties bad? Well, there weren't many penalties, but they were killers.
Mm-hmm.
The one that kept us from getting the safety, the 2 penalties on the drive for a touchdown. It was going to be hard for them to drive the ball against Texas defense without the penalties. And the penalties popped up and they were just critical. The hands to the face. That's something. A guy's competing, he's fighting, but you got to keep your hands out of the face. And then the real killer, BY talked about all last week, the 1 out of 5 on 4th downs.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to win situations on 4th down. And Ohio State won those situations. We go back to the quarterback sneak. The people that are griping about the quarterback sneak call are the ones that were calling for the quarterback sneak call last year against Ohio State.
Exactly.
Because Arch is big. And that one's hard to practice. Vince can tell you, we got Colt hurt at Kansas State on a quarterback sneak, hurt his shoulder and he's out for the game. We lose the game. And it was in the first drive. It's hard to practice with all those linemen digging in. And who wants to hit Arch? Who wants to hit Vince? All bundled up in there. And he'd already made the first down, backed up. Coach Sark made a very strong call, an aggressive call on Texas end of the field early in the game with a quarterback sneak and made it. So, but you've got to score touchdowns.
Yeah,
and you got to protect the ball. The other thing, uncharacteristic about the Texas defense, as good as they are, I think it's the first time in 23, 24 games they didn't force a turnover. And that was one of the most frustrating things to me as a head coach. When we won the national championship, we forced 31 turnovers. I think last year at North Carolina, we forced 8, 9. And you do the same drills. You maybe the players aren't as good, but you do everything the same way. Why? is does one team take care of the ball better than you can take it away from them? And that's just something that's important. But I thought the second half uh, was so much better than the first half. There were just a few missed opportunities in the second half. I thought Sark did a great job of adjusting at halftime. He's seeing a defensive coordinator that they hadn't seen on tape for 7 years or something. Last time he coached defense was in the NFL. So they were having to redo everything during the game, but he went tempo the second half. He got Arch on the move. Arch played much better the second half. And I just, I'd hate to be San Jose State.
Yeah, and you got to credit Ohio State and quarterback Julian saying, I mean, he played a clean game, and if we would have did the same thing, it would have been a different outcome. You know, for him to step in that high style environment, and I think not having that much reps and snaps, he took care of the ball. Didn't have penalties. He threw the ball well. He managed the game. And that's what all you can ask for as your quarterback. And then when you have a defense like that, you can depend on them to get big stops and things like that. So I just really feel like they went in the game, played a clean game better than Texas did, and that's why the outcome is the way how it turned out.
Yeah, I
Vince,
mean,
I agree about the Julian. I mean, he really played well for a young one. And you think, Bob, we get into all these things. We get excited. We get hyped. New set of receivers, new set of offensive linemen. C.J. Baxter coming off an awful knee operation, and a quarterback that's had 2 starts going on the road against one of the best defenses in the country with a defensive coordinator from the NFL, and he's not sure what he's going to do. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of things that Texas had to overcome in this game to have a chance to win.
Yeah, Julian Sand didn't have to do much, and that was it seemed like that was part of their game plan. I mean, he made the great throw to Carnell Tate. Tate makes a great catch over Jalen Gilbo. But yeah, the 24 game streak that ended for the turnover streak that ended was the longest in the nation. It's something Texas has been really good at, and they just weren't able to do it against Ohio State. And one of the things Sark talked about on Monday was we tackled well, but we didn't have a second tackler coming in to strip that ball out, and that was a real issue. Coach, I went back to last week's show. I wrote down, you said 5 things Texas has to do to win this game: turnovers, penalties, get the ball in on the goal line, special teams, and run it. They ran it. Special teams were good. Jack Bowmeister looks really good.
Yes, he does.
Didn't get a turnover. The penalties haunted him, and they didn't get in on the goal line. 3 of the 5 things that you said had to happen didn't happen, and they lose 14-7. Now let's flip it. What did you like? I thought the running game was great. 166 yards on the ground. CJ and Quintravian Wisner both looked good. I thought that was a real positive, considering last year against Ohio State and Georgia they couldn't run the ball. What did you guys like most about the? I know it's a loss, but what were some of the good takeaways you had?
Well, the tight end, he played really well, made some really great plays. Me and David Thomas and both gave. When it ain't there, they was always open for me. So shout out to David Thomas and Boscave and Neil Tweedy, man. Those guys always was in the right place at the right time. And sometimes, the year that we didn't have really good receivers, when Tony Jeffers was, I guess, our top receiver, at the time, everybody else was kind of coming into their own. And we threw the ball heavily to our tight ends that year. We ran the ball and we gave the ball to the tight ends until our receivers got more comfortable. I mean, TJ was already comfortable. He was a senior. He made a lot of plays for us, but Billy Pittman and Lyman Sweet, they were still kind of like feeling their way to get it. And I felt like that's what happened kind of a little bit for the Texas-Ohio State game. To give respect to the guy number 7 for Ohio State, this kid was running the routes for us. He was tuned in. He was ready to play. So, but I just really feel like that was kind of what was going on as we was trying to get comfortable with the play calling. Guys was trying to fill themselves in, and it was already too late. But in the same time, I just feel like they got that going on, and you can be happy to say that the guys were protecting, gave him time in the pocket. As a receiving core, you want to do better for Arch. Our tight ends did their job. Like you said, the running backs did their job. But overall, we need our wideouts. and they took a beating on Saturday.
Yeah, Jack Indries was great. I think that catch on the sideline was Arch's best throw of the day on that last drive. It was fantastic. Jack looked really good, and that's going to be a really big weapon for this Texas offense. Coach, what was your biggest positive takeaway from the game?
Well, I think just what you said, all the new pieces on offense. We knew the defense was good, and they played good. They played well enough to win the game. And then you go to the offense, and receivers are new. Timing is different with young receivers. Vince hit David Thomas to kind of give credit to what he just said 10 times in the national championship game.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of throws to a tight end. But I was really impressed with both running backs. We knew about Wisner, but C.J. Baxter is going to be really good. He's big. He's powerful. He caught the ball out of the backfield. He's going to make things happen. Arch will get better with his feet. There's some times that Vince it wasn't there. And he took off. He didn't wait. He didn't stop. He wasn't hesitant. It was either throw it or go. And Arch will get better at that as he goes, because when he ran the ball, he was really fast and big and elusive and made some plays with his feet that were really, really critical, and the tight end piece. So I think it's all there. I was impressed by the defensive line of Texas with the question marks. They were rolling them 3 at a time throughout the game, and it was very impressive. I didn't see people getting tired. I thought Texas played with confidence. And what we saw is Clemson LSU came down to a 4th and 4. Miami and Notre Dame comes down to a last drive. Alabama gets blown out by Florida State, which is unusual. That was the one that was kind of unique. But if we're going to see these games, it's going to come down to a play or two at the first of the game. But the great thing for Texas is everything that they needed to fix. And Coach Sarkisian talked about all these like we did before the game. Now they'll fix them. There is an urgency in that locker room, Vince, right after you lose to get things fixed. And you know what they are. And I know I'm a great friend with Archie Manning, played against him in college. The Mannings are very smart. They're very classy. They've got integrity, but they compete, man, and they are tough. So Arch is going to take this game. He's going to go back and look at it. He'll be harder on himself than anybody else. And he's going to go back and figure out what he could have done better. And like I said, look out this weekend, because he's going to do it better this weekend.
Ohio State crossed into Texas territory on 3 drives. And really the first drive, they got to the 49. So it was really 2 drives. They scored on both of those drives. Texas had 10 drives and crossed into Ohio State territory on 7 of them. They just couldn't get the ball in the end zone. And so, you find all these things that you there are reasons you can go win a game. There are reasons that it doesn't happen. We've outlined some of those. I think it's going to be really fun in our next segment to get into Arch Manning. I want to hear from Vince on some of the mechanical things that people were asking about. Some of those things that maybe you look at on TV and you see one thing, but maybe it's different when you go back and look at the tape. So we're going to get into Arch Manning and what's going on in our next segment. Yes, Coach.
And Bob, the other thing is field position. We talked about special teams. The punter is the reason that Texas had the ball in the Ohio State area the whole time.
Yeah,
he is a weapon.
Yeah.
And then and Sark talked about this Monday. You got to get on the Texas defense. When you've got the ball at the 1 yard line, you need a 3 and out, man. You got to have a short punt, and that's points. And when they move it 20 yards, it changes field position. So that's an area where the Texas defense could improve. You got them backed up. It's points. You've got to stop them and get points immediately. And that always really frustrated me when somebody could get off the goal line. You got to keep them down there.
And we don't fair catch. So I'm gonna have to get on there. Young Selvin was saying it the whole time of the game. What is he doing? We don't fair catch around here. We want every play. We want to run every punt return. So, man, I love that about our confidence that, Selvin Young and Aaron Ross that we had returning kicks. They got to make sure that they talk to him about, hey, man, we don't fair catch. We catch that ball and we make something happen, baby. That's just the confidence level. That's just Texas football. So Selvin Young was a little upset on the sideline about that.
Coach, was that okay? Did you mind? Did you want some fair catches at some points?
when those guys caught it, and we had a few that would be around a little bit. I think Aaron dropped the first one in the national championship game, but the Jordan Shipleys, the Aaron Rosses, Those guys returned so many. Nathan Vasher,
Quan
um,
Crosby, yeah.
Dwayne Aquina, Dwayne Aquina was one of the best in the country at blocking punts and punt
Yeah,
returns.
absolutely.
And
Yeah.
but I do think that the special teams at Texas will be huge this year for them because you got to win games with special teams, and that's much improved.
Yes.
No doubt about that. And we didn't get to see a lot of Mason Shipley, but I know they're pretty confident in what he can be. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into a little bit of Arch Manning, and we're going to talk about quarterbacks in general and what they face in opening games. Maybe not just opening games, though, because I know that's the tunnel vision everybody has is just that opening game. But we're going to get into a few of what it kind of looks like as you go through your entire career and you have those games. It's part of football. So we'll get into that and much more when we come back. This is The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. See you right after this.
Game days are a marathon. Tailgates in the morning, kickoff in the afternoon, and celebrations that can stretch late into the night. You need energy you can count on without the sugar crash or jitters.
These aren't your typical energy drinks. Rise Energy Strips give you clean, natural energy you can carry in your pocket. No cans, no spills, no hassle.
And no waiting around wondering when it's going to kick in.
Exactly. Each strip has 50 milligrams of caffeine from natural sources, plus vitamin B12, L-theanine, and electrolytes, all from natural ingredients. They dissolve under your tongue, so they work up to 5 times faster and are 10 times more efficient than pills or energy drinks. Zero sugar, 0 calories, and the convenience to keep them anywhere in your pocket, wallet, or gym bag, so you've always got clean, natural energy when you need it.
Yeah, I could have used these back in my playing days. It would have saved me from carrying around a can like it's part of my uniform. With these, pop a strip, fill it fast, and you ready to roll. That's a winning game plan.
And now you can try them yourself. Get 25% off your first order at riseup.com/stampede.
That's RIIZEUP.com/stampede. Rise Energy Strips. Smart, simple, and built for the long game.
Breakfast might be the most important choice you make all day. That's because with Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast, you can mix and match your very own perfect pairing of our delicious morning favorites. With this breakfast deal, the choice is all yours, not someone else's. And isn't that how it should be? It's your breakfast after all, not Martha's. She can pick her own breakfast. This one's all for you.
No matter what you choose, from our sausage biscuit with that grilled breakfast sausage or the egg and cheese biscuit with fresh cracked grade A egg and melty American cheese on a fluffy buttermilk biscuit, a small size of perfectly seasoned potatoes, or a medium hot coffee to power you through the morning, all you got to do is pick your ideal morning pair.
You really can't lose because you're the one calling the shots. The choice is all yours.
Wake up to Wendy's 2 for $3 breakfast just the way you want it. Limited time only during breakfast hours. U.S. price and participation may vary. No substitutions. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price. All right, welcome back to The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. A great first segment, talking about the Texas loss to Ohio State. We ask you to rate and review us anytime you can. That's on social media. We're at The Stampede UT. You can also find our podcast when it drops on YouTube, Apple Podcast, or Spotify. All right, this segment's going to be a lot about Arch Manning, but also some of the things that go into playing quarterback at a big school. And I want to get into a lot of these different things. We've got a little time here to do it. So, Vince, I want to start with you. Obviously, the start for Arch in the first half wasn't great. He responded well after the half. What was your biggest takeaway from the way Arch Manning played, and then obviously the response in the second half?
Well, I give Arch a C minus, and because of the reason of a lot of times he had a lot of happy feet. One thing that we talk about in quarterback position is always keeping your base, and when you're in the pocket. Yeah, he could have made some better throws. He kind of sidearm throw a little bit. Some of them things that I feel like he can make those throws. He was just in his first game, getting the jitteries out. And I'm pretty sure coach are going to, work on them type of drills at practice. I thought he could have like Coach said earlier, I thought he could have ran the ball a little bit more when it wasn't there. Try to force it, the passes. He's an incredible runner. Don't forget about your strength. Sometimes it's not going to be there. And sometimes you're going to have to take it down and extend the play, or go get a first down. These things occurs in the ball game. I really feel like he could have did better with that. I think he had a better second half. I thought we could have did better with helping him with some of the plays. We could have did more slants. We could have did more hitch routes, just easy stuff to get him in a rhythm. I thought we could have did better with that as a coaching standpoint. But overall, I thought, you know, for a big game like that, I give him a C. And there's some different things that I saw when I was watching him that I knew that was not who he is. I didn't see him probably make that throw a million times. Sometimes it is hard to see a under route when you got big O lineman like that and he pops in your face like that. And sometimes, you got to get off your first read, then your second read and get down to your third. You know, you just got to go through your progressives. And I was the same way when I was at the quarterback. It took me a while to understand how much time you have with your first read, your second read, and your third read. And once you get comfortable with it, you'll start getting a rhythm with that and understanding where your guys at pre-snap reads, seeing the defense a little bit better. All these things I feel like he's going to get better at the pre-snap read. Our whole coach is like teach him that, hey, when you see safety like this is where your eyes need to be at. If it ain't there, after you pat the ball one or two times, I mean it's not there. So let's go. Let's go. Let's go make something happen. And the good thing about him, he has legs. He can make big plays down the field with his legs. And then once that happened, defensive coordinator, you making them itch, scratch their head now. Oh, okay. Now he's starting to use his legs. I got to watch that. So, he got to make the game come to him. And one of the things that I did when I played, I took in whatever coach wanted me to do, and then I put a little bit of myself into it. And that's when my game kind of took off. And that's why coach brought him there, because of the skill and talent that he has when things get off schedule. He has to remember who he is. The things that he did in high school is the reason why we like him at Texas right now.
Yeah, and that's something Sark mentioned. He said, number one, we talked to him at the half. We sat him down and kind of simplified some things in his reads. But number two, I thought it was really interesting. On Monday, he said, we really want him to know he was more athletic than he was giving himself credit for
Exactly.
in that first half. He can run. And Sark said, I should have incorporated him in the run and maybe let him take a hit early just to kind of get his body flowing. That's kind of maybe how Arch gets going in games. So Sark had some interesting comments that things that he could have done better to maybe get Arch in the game a little bit more. Coach, what were some of your takeaways?
Well, we always hit Vince in pregame because we knew after he got hit, he was ready to go. So somebody'd have to run and try to knock him down. That was hard to do. I always took up for the quarterbacks. They've got the hardest job in football.
Yeah.
They touch the ball every time. And sometimes the receiver runs the wrong route. I thought Ohio State did a tremendous job of covering us a lot of the time. They're really good, and they're very talented. You got a new offensive line. Vince knows he was so close to our offensive linemen that you've got to trust them. And you've got to know that they're going to give you time. And a couple of times they were in Archie's feet, and he had trouble throwing the ball because he couldn't step and go forward. And then Matt Patricia, again, I can't emphasize enough, new defensive coordinator. They had no clue what he was going to do. And he did a really incredible job of showing one look and giving another, changing up coverages. And that'll make the quarterback hesitant. It'll make him hold the ball some. But I go back, and we were talking about it. Colts' first game against Ohio State, right after Vince left, he was he got beat 24-7. He was 19 of 32 for 156 yards, a touchdown, and an interception.
Boy, that sounds familiar.
He rushed for 38 yards on 4 carries and 1 touchdown. That was it. Fast forward, and here's where Arch is headed. In the Fiesta Bowl, he wins 24-21 against Ohio State. He's 41 of 59, 414 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 1 rushing touchdown, most valuable player in the game. And Vince had 2 of those. Vince had a tough game at Oklahoma. He came back. He had a tough game at Missouri at home the next week. He sat down. He regrouped. We did a better job of helping him do the things Coach Sarkisian was talking about on Monday, of simplifying this. What's best for you, Vince? What do you like? What do you not like? What gives you more confidence? He never lost another game. He ends up 30-2. Colt, after the Ohio State game, ended up being the winningest quarterback in college football history at that time at 44-7. So there is a growing period for quarterbacks more than ever before. Never been more pressure on a young person than there was on Arch going into this game.
Mm-hmm.
Very unfair to project him as the first pick and project him as the Heisman winner before he's gone to Ohio State. But now this game will create an edge with the staff, with the team, and I thought after the game, Ohio State probably won the national championship last year because Michigan beat them. And they all pulled together. They pulled together tight. They had an edge on their shoulder. And, man, nobody was going to beat them. Well, this football team and coaching staff on that long trip home pulled together. And they are talking right now. They're not playing just to the teams they're going to play the next 3 weeks. They're playing to the Ohio State standard now. They're practicing to a different standard. They're creating a different edge, and that gives them a chance to go play for it all.
And they didn't.
When,
and,
Coach, I know
and they didn't play well. They can't. And don't. I mean, they didn't play bad. You know, you can't listen to the media what they're saying. You know, because
hey, come on now, come on now.
Well, you know them other people, those other guys.
Everybody but Bob.
Everybody but Bob. You know, you can't listen to that stuff, man. You know, you gotta do what Coach just said. Is like it's all about us. Yeah, we didn't come out on a win, but if we go back and watch film like they're doing, you didn't really play bad. You know, you just had those situations that is very important. What we all been saying all week before the game is you have to understand how important it is. You have to understand a fourth down, how important that is, a third down. You know, you got to understand those emphasis because if once you don't do good with those, you're not going to win a ball game. And the only reason Ohio State won is because they did better at those situations. So I know Coach is going to be talking about that. Each and every last one of the coaching staff is going to be on their guys in the running back room and defensive room. These emphasis, when they come, it's going to help us win a championship. If we get these corrected now and keep on doing better at it throughout the season, we'll be in the playoff again and fighting for another championship if we get these things cleared up right now.
And Bob, remember Ohio State lost 2 games last year.
Right.
They lost to Oregon on the road, and everybody wanted them fired. And then they lost to Michigan. Everybody wanted them killed.
Everybody really, I was going to say.
Real fired. But your other question from a coaching and player standpoint, how do you handle all the stuff? Joe Jamel taught me that only listen to people that you really respect and you really love. Don't listen to all the stuff. Why listen to somebody you don't even know?
All right.
That's never seen a practice, never seen a game. I mean, I watch Vince every day. I love Vince. So when he comes and asks me about anything, even today, but especially back then, I was going to tell him the truth. And he knew I was going to tell him the truth, even if he didn't like it. And I saw where Arch sat down with his family, his brother, his mom and dad, and he had lunch, and then he had dinner. And you're going to talk to people you care about, and the Mannings have got so much information. They're the first family of college football that he's got wonderful people around him. He doesn't have to start listening to the internet and all the other stuff. And that's really dangerous if you do. We're all human.
Yeah.
I quit reading it because I didn't like it. And people say, well, he's just a coward. He won't read bad stuff about himself. No, you don't want to fill your head with negative stuff.
Right.
You got to be around positive people. And when you're around positive, confident people, you're more positive and you're more confident. And that's what Vince did. Vince just built this wall around him where he could be himself and go play. And it didn't matter if somebody said, well, I don't like him dancing on the sideline. Who cares?
Right.
Who cares? That's where he was at his best. And that's what you do. You figure out where your standard is, where your comfort zone is, block out all the people that you don't know, you don't respect, get you a few that you do. And I had a few friends. I had like a little board, and they were the Red McCombs and Moncriefs and Duvals and Jamels and Pierces. And I would ask them, I'd say, what do you think? And they'd tell me, and they were hard. And I said, I got it. That sounds good. I didn't do what they said, but I listened to everything they said and then figured out what I thought was best.
Exactly.
Arch Manning was 9 of 15 for 38 yards through 3 quarters. In the fourth quarter, went 8 of 15 for 132 yards and a score, started to settle in a little bit. I want to you guys have led me into this question, I think perfectly, because there's so much that goes into what the mindset of a quarterback is after something like this happens. So you mentioned the Oklahoma and the Missouri games. I want to talk about that. Out of 2003, the Washington State game obviously was a struggle as well. You have that whole offseason, and I know you're sold on Vince, so that's certainly not the issue. But what were those conversations like in 2004 after that Missouri game when the numbers weren't very good and everybody on the outside is, I mean, it's all raining down on you now, even if you won the game. What were those conversations in that offseason, then again after it happened against Missouri, like as you guys tried to navigate through that? Obviously, it's when you're hearing all that stuff from the outside, you're trying to block it out, but there's a lot that goes into that.
Well,
And I can start this one
Okay,
with
go.
Vince too,
Gotcha.
because and then I'll let you go with it. Number one, Bob, you're a Missouri grad. Were you pulling for us
I'm
in
an
that game,
unbiased,
or were
I'm
you?
an
were you-
unbiased
were you-
journalist, Coach. I'm an unbiased journalist.
Well, we know that's not true about
Hey,
journalists. But
my
we'll-
parents
but
went to
not just you.
Texas. My
Without-
parents went to Texas. I
There
went
you
to
go.
Mizzou.
Got
It's a
him.
hard. It's always
Got
a hard.
him.
just facts. We're
Just
just
straight
stating
facts.
facts here. We struggled at Oklahoma. It sure wasn't all Vince's fault, but we didn't score. We get back the next week, and after you lose to Oklahoma and you come back to DKR, it's not very comfortable. They're not very happy, and you could feel it walking in. And then Missouri had the number one defense in the league. They're really good. Vince struggled in the first half with some interceptions. I took him out. He was mad. He was frustrated. Threw his helmet, went over, and I talked to him. And man, did he click it right back into where it should be. He went back in the zone. I said, we benched Chance Mock, who's a good player, to play you. Chance has been really positive. You go back out there and be positive, and then I'm going to let Vince talk about what happened after that. Vince was wonderful. And people wonder about Vince Young being a team guy and wanting to win. He went right back to that sideline. He started cheering for Chance. Cedric Benson went off the second half. We win the game 28-24. And then the next day, I'll let Vince talk to you about the conversation that we had.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when you have guys around you, like Coach just said, that's positive energy, you feed off of it. For one, I wasn't a good passer, and I knew I wasn't. So I knew what I had to do. I had to throw more. I had to do extra things. I had to go evaluate myself, watch film on myself. Why is my three-step game not good? Well, I'm not opening up my hips more. I see that. Or I'm not seeing the coverage like I'm supposed to. So I had to go back to the drawing board for myself, because if you're not hard on yourself to be a better quarterback overall for yourself as well as for your teammates, you're not going to get better. You're going to let that stuff get into you. And then once you let all that negative energy get in, then you finna really stink it up. So I had to go evaluate myself. I had to go listen. I had to do what Chance Mock was doing for me on the sideline. I had to learn how to, watch the game and study and do better at that. And I had to go ask Major Applewhite, like, if you don't mind, can I get some extra work in with you? And he did. He met me and Coach McCoy at 7 a.m. every morning. And we went over the plays and we studied harder, and he communicated it. This is what Coach Davis, this is what he wants when he called this play. This is what this protection means. This is what your O-line. It gave me a better sense of what I needed to do from a mental standpoint. And once that started to happen, then the game started getting brought back fun. I started making better decisions and choices with the ball. I wasn't throwing more interceptions. So you just got to be, as a quarterback, you got to be professional and go in and find your help, because they're there for you.
Eh.
The coaching staff is there for you. And there's plenty of guys that have been in the offense and understands that coach did a great job of bringing these guys back on the staff to help us out, to ask questions like that. And that's why I always try to make sure I'm visible for the guys there now. Derek Johnson does it. Michael Huff is there. You got Casey Sturter. Those guys come out. Selman Young. When you have these type of guys that did it on the top level and they coming around, you have to use those guys. Ask them. And that's what I did. And I got better as a quarterback because I had guys like Chance Mock, Matt Norgan, and Major Applewhite, and these guys taking the time out to help me, and I really did appreciate it, and then my game went to another level.
And Bob, Arch Manning's a generational um, ability. He's a generational quarterback. He will be a great player at Texas. With Vince, we took him in after the Missouri game the next morning and showed him all the great plays he had in high school and why we took him. Then we showed him all the great plays he had at Texas. And we said, quit listening to all those, whether it's family members or media or boosters who are telling you you can't throw or your motion's not right or telling you we're not letting you throw enough. We're not calling the right plays. What you do is you get closer, you get tight knit. And all we said is, Vince, we want this guy back. Well, we're playing Texas Tech the next week. They're number 10 in the country. They've just beaten Nebraska 70-10 in Lubbock, and they had a week off to prepare for us. So it's going to be a tough week. So Vince goes out there and wins the game. I think it was 52-17. I'll never forget this in my life because it's when we won the national championship that week leading after Missouri where things were bad. Because we pulled together, we got tighter, we got sharper, we did a better job of coaching, Vince as well. But he was 10 of 15 for 250 yards and rushed for 250 yards and didn't turn the ball over and won the game in Lubbock. And never, ever looked back. Didn't lose another game.
Didn't lose again, yeah.
And that's what this is about now. When things are tough, man, you pull together. You find out who you really are. And that's what we're going to see with Arch. The receivers, they're going to press more to do everything right. The offensive line's going to see. You go back and look at every little thing that happened in that game. There's too much pressure. You're in his feet. He couldn't step. No, you're 17 yards deep. You're supposed to be 15. And Arch, you've got to see that safety. That safety rolled down on you and confused you, and you held the ball too long. All those things are being talked about today, and it's one of the wonderful things about coach and player relationship. Those things you're fixing this week, and it's so much fun. You love to take negatives and turn them into positives.
Yes.
There are so many examples of quarterbacks over the years, and I know people are throwing out different numbers and different stats. You know, this was Arch Manning's first game on the road against the defending national champion, number 2 in the country, all those type of things. I want to run through a couple of these because it's really interesting to think about what quarterbacks go through. Johnny Manziel, his first game, his Heisman Trophy year, he had 173 yards, no passing touchdowns. Cam Newton's first SEC start, his Heisman Trophy year, 200 yards of total offense. Joe Burrow's first start at LSU, 140 yards. Peyton Manning lost 3 times to Florida. And I mean, Tennessee fans couldn't get over that. His final game at Tennessee in the bowl game against Nebraska, he had 134 yards and a touchdown and interception. That's after 3 years of being the guy. Eli went through some of that too against Georgia in 2002. He had 176 yards and 2 interceptions. And those are veteran guys. I remember Cooper Manning when at the Super Bowl this year on the Dan Patrick Show talking about how all this hype is great and it's wonderful, whatever. There's going to come a time where he doesn't play a good football game. Guys, he's a quarterback. It's the way this works. It's the way of the world of a quarterback. All these numbers that you can go back and look at, I think it's really interesting to think about his uncles, some of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, and the things that have gone into them being successful. Sometimes it's taken that hit. It's Vince going through Washington State or Oklahoma or Missouri and then flipping it and then never losing again. All those things, I think, play into what happens as a quarterback. And it's real easy now with the internet for everybody to just forget about that. All national pundits all day on Saturday ripping Arch Manning apart. Everybody this week trying to take him down. And it's just it's an interesting vibe to see the shift from he's the best player that's ever played college football to now he's the worst. And it's, you know, like you always say, it's never as bad as it seems. It's never as good as it seems. But what are your takes on that? What do you think about when you go back and look at those numbers and you hear those quarterbacks that have done all these things, Vince, you included, to be able to overcome that? What's Arch's next step?
It's just, do what he's been doing. I mean, that type of stuff is just going to happen, especially the generation they're in right now. When you getting paid and things like that, they say you're supposed to be able to handle that mess. I don't still to this day, I don't get it, especially a young kid like that. But, the matureness that he has, or the things that all these quarterbacks went through, is going to happen not just one time. It's going to happen again. It's going to happen again, and it's going to happen again. and to a point that you're gonna have to deal with adversity for the rest of your life. And it makes you stronger mentally. It makes you a better quarterback, especially when you come out of it on top. And you are gonna come out of it on top because the love of the game and you want to do good. When you have that kind of instincts, can't nobody take that from you. Like Coach just said, we're touching the ball all the time. So we're going to get the last laugh all the time, especially because you're going to work. You saw it, you see it, you watching film on it. You took in all the hatred, all the negative energy, and now you just go flip it and take it out on the San Jose State. So they got it coming. I think you just
well, and
pissed
it's three straight weeks of it, right?
And
Right,
you're really
it's-
right, Vince. It doesn't matter who they are; they're in trouble.
They in trouble, yeah.
I
So
mean, they are in
let's
trouble.
go.
I felt the same way, Bob. Number one, there's certain people that just wait to be negative, and it could be a fan of another school that's talking like they're a Texas fan too.
Yeah.
That's what the internet is. You don't ever know who's on there. It could be the people just stirring it up to get more people stirred up, because the more eyeballs they get, the more viewers they get, the more money they make. That's just part of it. Those are facts. But you can't worry about it. There's a lot of people that are my friends that were walking out of that stadium on Saturday that said, "Oh man, we're so close. We're so close
Right.
to play this down to really." Texas had a chance to win with 2 minutes left. I mean, it's down to the end.
Which is
And-
crazy
and-
the way that game went, that they had
Yeah.
that opportunity. I mean,
And
but that's
didn't-
the fight, right?
And didn't do a lot of the things they know they can do. So
Right.
you can take that as a positive. But I go back to, people don't know the depth of receiver. And people watching the game don't know when the receiver ran the right route or wrong route. So sometimes when Arch is holding it, his receiver didn't show up, and he's waiting on him. You got to have total trust and total buy-in. And Vince said when his receivers were young and inexperienced, he threw to the backs and the tight ends. And then the receivers came on. And that's what we're going to see happening. We threw to the backs on Saturday. We threw the tight end on Saturday. Receivers are coming. Ryan Wingo has got a chance to be a great player, not a good player. The other guys, Dante Moore, the same thing. They've got a chance to be great players. It just takes some time. We just can't click in and say, go play good. Man, experience helps. It makes a huge difference.
I wish it was that easy, Coach. Just go play.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens too when a Vince and an Arch and a Chris Sims, who had more criticism here than probably anybody, Quinn Ewers last year, people cussing Quinn, and he went to 2 playoffs. He's a player or 2 away from playing for a national championship. So when a Vince makes it look so easy and people get comfortable and they see themselves, they identify with Vince running. And then if there's an interception, they get mad because they get, I don't want to feel that way. And I get it. Now, I'm a fan. So I get on a plane. I fly to Columbus. I got to get my own rides. I don't have a police escort like I used to. You got to figure out where you're going to sit. And after the game, you've spent time, you've spent money, and then you got to go back home and you're disappointed. I got it. You bought in. That's why, and I've always said the best fans go on the road, because it is an effort
Right.
and expensive to
Yeah.
go on the road and follow a team. And if you're there, man, you're good. But what Texas fans need to do is come out and be loud on Saturday at noon and pick this team up, because it's still a potential national championship team and definitely playoff team because of the way the program is structured now. The college football playoffs gives you a chance to still play. And no better example than Ohio State overcoming a loss to Oregon and Michigan last year.
It's an instant gratification society we live in, and a lot of people are not happy when things go wrong and they want it fixed immediately. Texas has 3 weeks here to get some things fixed, and we're going to see. Obviously, they're going to win these 3 games. We can talk about all that we want, and we'll get into a little bit of that in this upcoming segment, and we'll get you our underdog fantasy picks as well. This is the Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns, sponsored by Rise Energy Strips. Back after this.
Football is back, And Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long.
Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite player will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more.
This week on Underdog, I'm looking at the Mizzou-Kansas rivalry game, and I'm going to stick with Missouri quarterback Bo Prabula to go higher than 200.5 yards passing. And then I'm going to shift down south. I'm going to go to Baylor SMU and take SMU quarterback Kevin Jennings to go higher than 29.5 yards rushing. Download the app today and sign up with promo code STAMPEDE to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code STAMPEDE. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or older in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. All right, time for the final segment of the Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. We appreciate you joining us. You can always get your Stampede podcast anywhere you get your podcast, on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. We also ask that you rate and review us on social media at the Stampede UT. Our final segment, of course, brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's time for our Underdogs of the Week. We got to recap real quick where we are on the season. We're going to keep track all year long. Vince Young, 2-0 on the season. Last week had Quintravian Wisner higher than 53.5 yards rushing. That one hit.
Yes,
Coach
sir.
Brown, 1-2 on the season. Had Arch Manning higher rushing yards, which hit last week, but James People higher rushing yards did not hit. I am 2-1 on the season. I had Ryan Wingo higher than 52.5 yards rushing last week, which did not hit, but I did have James People lower than 55.5 yards rushing.
So I'm the loser, right? I'm behind, just to make sure that we're
Coach,
clear
you're not a
here.
loser. I never said you're a loser. I just said you're losing. There's,
1 and 2.
There's plenty of season. We just talked about this for two segments.
is.
You got so much season left to get it all, it all back.
And I improved more from game 1 to game 2.
That's right. The biggest improvement comes game 1 and game 2. That's what all coaches have told me. All right, we're going to make our picks for this week. A couple big games on the docket. Not as big as week 1, but we still have some big games. There's one in Norman, Oklahoma this week. Michigan and Oklahoma. Vince, I know you like a pick in that game. Who are you taking?
Is it Samaj Morgan?
Samaj Morgan.
Samaj Morgan. I'm going higher, 30.5 receiving. Yeah, he definitely going to do that over there in that crazy, ugly stadium.
I love that. I can't. Vince, you know what time it is? We're talking about Oklahoma.
I think
I
it's
didn't know if you-
11:16, and OU still.
Never gets old. Love hearing Longhorn say it. Coach Brown, we're going to get you to say it too, because you're also taking a Michigan player, aren't you?
Yes, and the OU fans have horns down right now anyway,
Oh,
wherever
yeah.
they are.
Yeah,
Hello,
that's
horns down.
4 weeks away.
Going to have lunch? Horns down.
They already feeling like that.
How'd the game go? Horns down.
Oh, yeah.
That's it. Yes, Chip Lindsey's the new offensive coordinator at Michigan, and he worked with us last year at North Carolina, and they signed Bryce Underwood. And I'm going higher for him to go in. He is a tremendous talent, young freshman, second game on the road. Be a tough call for him, but I really believe he's got to step up and go higher for Michigan to win, and I think he'll do that.
Vince Young and Mack Brown becoming Michigan men right before our eyes. They both take Michigan players. The big showdown, the renewal of the rivalry, Missouri and Kansas this weekend in Columbia, Missouri. I am going to go with Missouri quarterback Bo Prabula to go higher than 200. 200.5, I believe, yards passing. Yeah, 200.5 yards passing. The transfer from Penn State had a good first week. He can run it and he can throw it. And this is going to be a fun game. Kansas is really good when Jalen Daniels is healthy. Kansas is a good program. Lance Leipold's done an amazing job in bringing Kansas back to where they are now. But we're going to stick with Missouri quarterback Bo Prabula and see what happens. If you take those three of our picks and put them all into one entry, you're going to get 4.62 times your entry. So if you put down 10, you're going to get 46.20 back. So we encourage you to go to Underdog, and we made our picks. You go make your picks. As always, Underdog, make picks, win money. All right, let's transition into this week. I know we're not going to do a big, whole, long preview of Texas, San Jose State and break it down like we did Texas, Ohio State for 7.5 months.
Why not?
It feels like I remember Coach saying when you guys were getting ready to play Ohio State, you played Louisiana in week 1, and you called that a scrimmage all offseason. I don't know if these are necessarily scrimmages, but Texas should win all 3 of its next 3 games. But what are you looking for most, Vince, when Texas comes out this weekend against San Jose State, the home opener?
Just, do better at, the things that they didn't do well at
Yeah.
in the Ohio State game. And I know Coach Brown want to see that. He's going to put the pressure on us. Coach Brown going to do that all the time. And as a player, you want to accept that too, the challenge, because of the fact if you get those things cleaned up, I'm telling you, Coach them know what they're talking about. I remember when Coach was like, whoever get the last stop is going to win the game. I was like, it came down to the last stop in the Michigan game and in the Rose Bowl game. So if you clean up the things that coaching them is like, pushing it, I know they are young right now, but if they get mature enough to understand how important it is, a fourth down, it's a quarterback sneak, even if they didn't make it, I think they got to get it to the point of their mental like confidence. Like if Coach calling this play on a fourth down, he expecting us to get it. If we on the fourth down on the goal line, he's expecting us to hit these corner routes. If they call a pass play, he's expecting us to do everything we're supposed to do to make that play. So on the third down, things like that in the red zone that these guys didn't do well at, receivers and things like that, like these small little things, that's what I want to see them guys come out and do, clean up the penalties. You can't have them. That's a safety. I still didn't see the hands to the face. So, them zebras, you got to watch them guys as well. But, just clean it up. Just clean it up. Take the challenge that coach is finna give you this week and transfer it from the team meeting room and the team position rooms as well, and take it to the practice field and get better at it. Go to practice. Make practice so hard. You coming out of there sweaty that you didn't work your butt off all week. So when the game comes and these situations occur, it's simple to you now because you worked your butt off all week at practice.
Coach, we got 3 scrimmages. Is that a fair?
No.
We're going scrimmage? No, we're not going scrimmages. Okay.
To be clear, we never told the players there was
right. No,
scrimmages.
of course.
So that was really important. Ohio State game, you relax them because they're going to be too intense. Games like this, you put your thumb on them, man. You go back to work. You work so much harder in practice this week to make sure that you can. You've got an identity. You've got things you've got to fix. You take the crisis you had and turn them into positives, and you're playing to a standard now. You're creating an edge. Don't go out there and stand around. You'll get hurt. And like Vince said, you've got to practice today in practice like it's a game, and then do the same thing all week. And then when you get to the game, you're still playing the standard of Ohio State. You're still playing the standard of the best team you're going to play all year. You're playing the standard to win the national championship. You're not playing whoever's out there. And then you'll continue to do that. But these guys are going to work so hard on those red zone plays. They're going to work so hard to make sure they've got better precision with their passing routes. When Vince and Colt we'd go through practices and they wouldn't even throw in completions. And I said, if you can't complete balls against air, we're not going to throw them in the game. You've got to be good enough. You've heard that, Vince, for sure. Or if a guy drops it, hey, if you can't catch it in practice, man,
we're not calling it.
We're not calling it. That's it. You want to run it every time? Then throw it like you're throwing it now.
Yeah,
that's what we'll do. So every little thing that they didn't like about Saturday, they're going to clean up and make sure that's a lot sharper this week. And that's the fun part of it. They'll get right back in the hunt, but got to get better. And now they know what they've got to do to get better. And that's fun. It's fun to fix it. And then fans will say, well, why didn't they fix it before Ohio State? You tried, you thought it. We heard Coach Sarkisian say, no pre-snap penalties. no critical penalties, no turnovers, forced turnovers on defense. You go out and watch them practice. Turn the ball over, man. Knock it loose. Strip it. Special teams got to be great. Hard to work on, go quarterback sneak. It's really hard to work on it in practice. You got people digging down, and it's hard to do that. They'll be better at it this week. You can do it, but you really got to be careful because you don't want to lose your quarterback on a quarterback sneak in practice. So this week is fun. By Tuesday, you've got a 24-hour rule. The Ohio State's gone. It's in the past. You've got to move to the next game. Got to move to the next day. You got to move to the next play. Fans have more trouble putting it away, but they're not working on somebody else. Mm. Texas has totally got a new focus of San Jose State. And the other thing you don't want to do is you don't want to stink because you've got to get better. You got to continue to get better. And this is a young team on offense that will continue to get better. And that's one of the exciting things I would think that Coach Sarkisian sees right now.
Yeah, I really think it'll be interesting to see how much they actually run Arch the next 3 weeks. I know they want him to use his feet and be athletic, but you also don't want him to get in a situation where he gets hurt or something happens. You really want this to be a good developmental time for him. I'm excited to see this running game. I really am. I think C.J. Baxter and Quintravian Wisner over the next 3 weeks are gonna do a lot of things, and we're gonna get to see a little bit of some of the guys behind them. The Christian Clark, the guy that tore his Achilles last camp, and they really like his burst. I want to see him. I want to see Jarrett Gibson again and see kind of what those guys bring in the running game. So I think these next 3 weeks are going to be a lot of fun to see some of the things we thought we'd see and how they develop in that time. It's kind of like in spring in preseason camp. You're saying, do we want to hit hard? Do we want to thud? Do we want to? It's the same thing with Arch now. How much are you going to actually run him? But you want to get him comfortable and you want to get him in good positions for Texas moving forward.
Yeah, and Bob, if I could say we do this with Vince, if we were ahead in the ball game and we kept Vince in, we would say, do not get touched. You run and get down. You run and step out of bounds, but do not take a hit. So you can still run the quarterback and keep him fresh and make sure you're running the right plays with him. We even got in some games. I think it was the Kansas game, maybe we were far ahead and it was still second quarter, early third quarter. Yeah. And I told Vince, don't scramble, throw it away, but do not run, because we were at the end of the year and we want him to throw some more. We want to get some more experiences, but don't take a hit. So they can play Arch and tell him to be smart. And that's the difference too. I only remember Vince getting hurt one time in his entire career, and that was a sprained ankle against Kansas State. This is what makes this guy so special. He absolutely twisted the ankle. I thought he was dislocated. Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah. Awful looking. And they bring him over the sideline. I told Greg Davis, he's gone, man. Just get ready. Get Chance out there. He didn't miss a play. And then after the game, he limped a little bit. And I said, you okay? And he said, yeah, a little sore.
Okay, but Vince, in that moment,
these guys are special.
But to your point, Coach, Vince, in that moment when Coach says don't scramble, don't do those things, you're a competitor. There are plays where you're going to have to get out of the pocket and you see a guy and you're like, I can run him over. How hard is it to not do it?
Well, I mean, you just got to understand how big you are for your team, you know.
Yeah.
You know,
big picture.
Yeah, the bigger picture. Like we practice get down. I probably had one of the worst quarterback slides in the world. But we practiced it.
And it's hard to practice.
It's hard to practice, but we practiced it. So when the situation came, I got down. You know, don't step out of bounds. We need the clock running. Slide down, get down. You know, some of the things that, you know, when these situation comes, I applaud our coaching staff for making us go through it at practice. So when it does occur, when it does happen, you protect yourself. You step out of bounds. You take less hits. You try to do your best at it. And once you understand, it's like the bigger picture is what Coach Jim is trying to say. We don't want you hurt. We want you to get the yards. We want you to do those type of things. But we don't want you to get hurt. So protect yourself at all times. Even when you don't have the ball, they're going to try to take a cheap shot at you. And I got a whole bunch of them, you know, but in the same time, I was delivering them back to them. I was a physical quarterback myself. And one of the things I want to add, you know, one of the things that everybody's going to be really looking at is how do Arch come to practice? Does he come back the same way he started camp? Funny, goofy, loose? Is it something on his mind he come out there just walking, slouching? The whole entire team is about to watch that. The coaching staff is about to watch that. So if if Arch is listening to this podcast, go out and be the same person you have been, man. Everything happens for a reason. It's going to make you a better player, make you a better quarterback. But don't forget, you're not by yourself. You got your teammates there, and they're looking for you to lead us. So when you step onto that practice field this week, come out there with the same energy you always have. So that's going to be very important for Arch when you step back out there on the football field this week.
That's great advice from someone who's done it at the highest level. Arch, if you are listening, take that advice.
Please
All
listen.
right,
Support your boy, baby. Support your boy, Arch.
Hey, perfect way to end this. That's great advice from Vince. San Jose State this weekend as Texas gets set for the home opener, first of 6 games at DKR this year. Guys, appreciate it. Look forward to doing it again next week.
Let's go, baby.
That's Mack Brown. That's Vince Young. I'm Bob Ballou. We always appreciate you guys listening to The Stampede, a podcast on the Texas Longhorns. We'll see you next week.